everybody. This is the Rob and George Enlightenment Evolution Show. This is Rob.
And this is George.
And we're here today to talk to you guys about a few different things. First of all, we want to connect this broadcast to the last session that Treb did. And I understand not all people who are listening to this are big into channeling. Most of you who are led here were probably led here because of the channeling that I do. But we try to connect this for people who do and do not necessarily appreciate channeling. But today we're going to talk about this one specific session. Last night, me and George did probably one of the greatest all-time sessions of Treb. The energy was so extremely great. The message was so beautiful. It was so clear. And Treb and me had a connection that was unlike any other night. My excitement has been going because of all the things that we've been doing, and I get my brother George back to start doing the shows and to start doing our open forums and everything. And this is one really, really exciting evening, and it all culminates with this beautiful session, something that with the likes that I have not heard for a long time. And believe me, lately Treb has been doing beautiful sessions. But this, to me personally, the message that was in this was so profound and so great, it rose above the others. And this is what we want to talk about tonight. I want you, George, to just kind of give an intro to what you enjoyed about the session, why you wanted to do that session and everything for people who might not have heard the session, which is actually entitled Treb Channeling. This is dedicated to all the listeners, and you can find that here on YouTube. But go ahead, brother. Explain why you wanted to do that and what you felt about the session as it went through.
Well, thank you, brother. I felt compelled to do this session just in learning more myself about the ascension period, learning more about the time frame. This 36-year time frame, 18 before, 18 after, and in pondering those thoughts, I was led to ask these questions about each of us personally putting this knowledge into action. We're so used to for many thousands of years living in this 3D paradigm, and we're it's no coincidence that all of these channelings are coming, in this time frame, in this ballpark of time. And I think it's very important to actually start taking this stuff literally. I know we spoke of this before, but rather than listen to them, if we would listen to them as truths and start creating new belief systems and kind of veering away from the old belief systems, I think it'll help us much better into manifesting these these your outer world, your perceptions of the outer world. I think it's very important to start putting these things into action.
Absolutely, brother. And I think one thing, too, that you said about that is how people listen to it and then they lock into that. Well, this is a good idea, or this is a good philosophy, or, this is just a good, nice, happy thing that we can feel good while we listen to it. But the true mark of this is the actions that we take. And this is one thing that Treb really hit home last night. He was so passionate and so energetic last night when he explained that the idea of moving upon our loves for things. He explained how our belief system set up the system around us, kind of like the rules or the out of bounds if you're playing basketball. And within that, putting the players on the field, that's our thoughts. That's the kind of thing that we're doing when we're thinking or projecting our thought process through any kind of non-action concentration, whether we're thinking about it, being happy about it. All of that's really great. It's really helpful. It really works out to our benefit. But the action is what I think Treb said, it cements it in. It makes it what happens. This action that you take upon these love, upon this excitement, upon these things that you get so energetic and so happy and so preposterously crazy about and just acting on them. This is the key. And this is one of the things that many people don't do. They just don't take it upon themselves to step out and act on that. They don't they think about it. They're thinking, well, my belief systems are this way, my thought about it is this way, my excitement about it this way. But if I concentrate on this idea, it'll come to fruition. I'm going to do this. But the action is the really important part, and that's something that a lot of people have been saying lately. Is everyone's been in line to think, everyone's been in line to raise their vibration, everyone's understood the concepts here, but stepping out and acting on it is the most important thing. A lot of us sit in 3D for so long. We're waiting for things to take place, and we're not stepping out and making them happen. A lot of people call me up, they talk to Treb, they talk to George, and they always say, well, this is something that I really, really want, but I can't do it because of money, or I can't do it because of this, or I can't do it because of that. And this is excuses that all of us tend to make. And it's really horrible when we do, because these excuses aren't helping us live in that 4D reality, that 5-dimensional reality that everyone wants to be in. Those are just excuses, and these excuses is what gives us the ability to produce lack of everything, because we're not stepping out.
Right, exactly, brother. Again, we can use our personal experiences to help others as well, and I think we should do that, because it's not that it's difficult, but these thoughts have to be in the forefront of your mind. For example, if we think of disconnection, I think that first and foremost we have to remember at all costs that we're a spirit experiencing this human condition here on Earth. That's what Earth is. And if we really try to remember that and make a belief system out of that alone, the other belief systems will follow. And I think the same with manifesting. We know that manifestation comes with uh, uh, how high your vibration is. For example, let's use abundance. If we start thinking that we are abundant in the moment, in the now, and again, it's just it's not hard work, but it's just has to be in the forefront of your mind that by having your highest excitement and being as happy and as joyful as you can in any given moment is really the secret of manifesting. I mean, whatever it may be. Uh, so abundance comes in all different forms, and we can use this as an example just to talk about it, because we all want things. We all want a better life. You want a happier existence. But when you know that it's not going to happen if your vibrations are low, then it's not going to happen. That's what 3D is. It's experiencing that polarity. And I think that when we learn to manually raise our vibration by doing things that we enjoy, this will bring us into so many different realms of infinite possibilities that it's really remarkable. And I think the session last night was really Treb touching on all these specific points that now are available to us that weren't here before. Our consciousness has to change. It's been like this for thousands of years. This golden age that we're in now is a time for change. And if everybody would start just doing their personal best at taking these channelings as the truth and listening to the way these channelers talk about love and light, and removing those old paradigms of hate and jealousy and racism and all of these different aspects that are negative, will really change our lives forever. But we have to start small, take tiny steps into putting these and keeping these in the forefront of our minds.
Absolutely, brother. And I think you made a good point too when you were talking about how the setup with uh, the idea of feeling lack or abundance is really different definitions, and this is where our belief systems come into play. Um, Basically, what Treb was explaining is If it's a basketball court, and this is the belief systems, the only thing that's within your beliefs can be in that basketball court. So what he's saying is, if you believe that you're not abundant without $1 million, then that $1 million abundancy will not be within your belief system. Anything but that will not be within this belief system. So
Right.
every time you gain $20,000, or every time you gain connection with other people, which in my opinion is the greatest abundance to have, connection to others and love, all these things that are so beautiful, all these things that are so wonderful and great are truly being missed because they're outside of that belief system of what abundance is. So we need to learn to turn those belief systems in for our greater good so that we're able to do that. And I think that that's one of the biggest points. And I think you're right too, brother, with the idea of some people taking it slow, starting with baby steps and just slightly turning that on. Some people don't have to do that. Some people are conditioned not to have to do that. But I believe most of us are. And the other idea that you were talking about too, with channeled, to take the ideas literally, it's hard for people to do that though. Honestly, channeling is so fringe to so many people. It's hard for them to either believe it or to want to embrace it to that 10th degree that most of us are able to do who enjoy the channeling. So my suggestion is, when you do listen to channeling, or if you do listen to channeling and you have that, then basically take out anything that has to do with the channel source itself. So let's say you're listening to Treb. If Treb says anything about himself, if he says anything about his homeworld, if he says anything that doesn't have to do with your daily life, remove all of that. And if you do, and you still listen to that session and cut all those parts out, you will still find information that is so usable, that is so greatly able to move people in a direction towards self-empowerment and betterment. I mean, the ideas that he expresses about relationships, love, manifesting, all of those, whether you believe in channeling or not, whether you like channeling or not, those are real and those are very powerful. And if we act upon those things as being 100%, that's what can really help us get through. And I know that's exactly what you meant too, brother, but a lot of people might have heard you say that and kind of say, well, I can't believe everything that these channeled entities say, because a lot of people can't really connect to the idea of what channeling is. They can't connect to that because it's outside of their basketball court.
Sure. Sure. Well, yeah, that's true. And yeah, I'm assuming that the people that are that have been listening, or the people that just came on board, it's there's a reason why they were drawn to whatever channeling session or channeling in general. It's the a part of awakening for all of us. And I think what I guess what I hope to do is kind of push the envelope a little bit into letting people know that we have to start thinking this way for it to start changing. It can't, it was never set up to be an abrupt change. I mean, that would everybody would go nuts if I mean, you can imagine him manifesting something and it just appear in front of you. It can't be set up that way. So yeah, I do understand, and you're absolutely right. Um, but we have to start moving it forward and keep talking about these things. Treb gave us wonderful lessons to do about starting your day. You know, if you really want to experience some of these wonderful things that we're all capable of, but we just don't believe them yet because it's out of our 3D reality. You know, uh, quantum theory is everything around you that you cannot see. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just like the UFOs. If your consciousness is open enough to look up at the sky and to know that they're there and your vibrations are right, you're going to see them. I mean, they're all over. They're all over. But again, these sessions that we do are just basically a metaphor of what's to come. We have to keep talking about them. We have to keep uh, making them understandable, breaking them down, because it's really something that it's all new to us now. It's these thoughts of having all of this power at our fingertips. But again, if you don't realize that you're a spirit here experiencing this, how can you start believing? So I think it's very good. I'm very excited about talking about the subject matter, and I know you are too as well.
Oh,
So
oh yeah.
yeah, so it's the more we kind of open the book and start talking about these things in a more literal way, I think the sooner that we'll all start to understand and believe what the truth really is.
Absolutely, brother. And that's, when I expressed that idea too before, I knew exactly what you meant, and me and you are on the same page there. I just wanted to explain it to people who might not be
Sure,
familiar, someone who might stumble across this, because it is so important to realize that you can take this channel material however you want. A lot of people take it as everything is 100% truth, and some people can only take what resonates. But I would ask for anyone who doesn't take channeling serious to at least give it the chance to take those small parts out that resonate with you at least. And that's the one thing too. Early in my time of learning about this and connecting with Treb, I looked into other channelings. Some resonated with me, some didn't. But even in the ones that I didn't care for, even the ones that I thought were bringing negative or bad messages across, there was always, even if it was just one sentence within that, something I could take out and use, and something that made sense to me and made a beautiful impact. And I think that's another thing too, and this is why this experience is gaining so much popularity and so much resonance with so many people, is because there's so much truth in all of these messages. And I think that when you hear the truth, it makes your heart sing, and there's no denying that. I know that when I talked to Treb first, I just couldn't stop focusing on the information he gave me until I looked it up for myself, until he gave me a reference to cross reference his information with, so that I was able to see this wasn't just a fluke in my own mind, or a fluke within my own meditative state, or whatever the case was. And that's why I think it resonates greatly with a lot of people. And taking the material for what it is, I mean, taking it for how you perceive it, that's the right that everyone has. And this is another part of what he explains too. Our perceptions are so important into this whole process of manifesting, and our whole process of growing as a race, is to be able to have these great perceptions of our own and still be able to accept others' perceptions. And this is one of the biggest problems I see, especially in what they call the light working community, or the love and light community, whatever they call it. People are in there and they're fighting about what's right, what's wrong, who's right, who's wrong, whose views. And I just want to tell all you guys who are caught up into that drama, just release it. The quicker you release it, the quicker you can let that stuff go, the more your heart will sing with resonance, because it doesn't matter if the man standing next to you does not believe that one aspect of the overall idea is right, or if the whole idea is right or wrong. That has no matter to you. It is only another version of yourself looking back at you. And that's a part too that he got into with relationships, and how we use that to reflect our own truths, and how those have actually been testing us. And I think that's another point we should talk about, brothers, the part of that energy that's been testing all of us lately. If you have any insight, personal experience, anything about that idea that you want to share, I'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when Treb talked about, and again, when we do these sessions, I'm listening to them too, and they're new to me as well. So yeah, I mean, personal experience. Yes, the past month and a half has been it's been difficult in so many ways, but in the past few days, it's almost like you're going through this dark tunnel to experience the light, and it's what you're doing actually is the perspective. If you're feeling kind of humdrum, it's really the higher self pushing you, and it'll do it in ways that sometimes they're difficult, but as long as it gets you moving forward, that's the main purpose. It's the soul's purpose is to make you. The soul is all about love and loves you greatly, and all of this wonderful information. But sometimes we get off track. with different aspects. The ego gets in the way, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of people. It's happening to us personally. It's happening to everybody in the world, even in the light worker community. It happens. It's a process. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think once we start understanding this, and you almost have to. I always try to take a neutral perspective. There's a positive and negative things that are going on, but if you kind of stand back in the third person view and look at this, all of this from a neutral perspective, you really start understanding the big picture. You're understanding the things that are going on in the world, the the positivity and the negativity. But again, when you step back from it and you look at it from a different perspective, the neutral perspective, you'll see that it's serving a purpose. And um, it's as we spoke about earlier, the soul doesn't know good or bad. It just wants to experience, but it's coming from the loving perspective itself. So there's so many ways to look at this, and when people start experiencing the synchronicities that come, there's no mistake. There's no mistakes in the world. There's reasons why people uh, find out about channeling, that maybe go to a YouTube and see a channeling video, or there's reasons why people are being pushed in the direction they're pushed, and it's not good or bad. So it's very important to look at that, and don't say one thing is good and one thing is bad. Try to look at it in that neutral perspective. That's what I do, and it seems to serve me well.
Sure, absolutely. When you're able to look at something and see, even if you don't prefer it, even if it's something that you would always have believed in the past was bad or negative, it still serves its purpose. Um, Even violence, death, all of these things, drugs, you name it, it can serve its purpose. Look how many
Yes.
people who have had those really rough pasts. Like with me, I had a real bad depressive state. I was so highly disconnected. 8 years of my life was complete disconnection from what I truly was, and that was for a reason. It was so that I could be here today talking to you, talking to everyone who's listening, and talking and connecting with Treb to help assist people in their daily lives. That's what I needed that direct disconnection for. Now, don't get me wrong, during that time, it was horrible. I felt like I was just worthless. I felt like I didn't have a place in the world. I felt like everyone hated me. I hated myself. And I mean, that disconnection was so hard. It was rough during that time. But now, knowing what I know, putting myself back in that position, which obviously I know I really couldn't, because I've learned so much I could never go back to that point. But I do know that if I was ever put in a position to be tested or to be given adversities to climb over, I'm always able to, at least for one moment of clarity in my disconnection, look at it and say, this is going to be over, and when it does, I will get it. I will understand. And it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's so hard to do that in the moment because of that
Yes.
pain and disconnection. But if you can at least remind yourself of that one time during that disconnection, it can really make the rest of it um, go by a lot easier. And after you're done with the hindsight, then you find that beauty of what I'm able to learn and what I'm able to take from this. And then it no longer has a negative purpose. It's just trying to see that in the moment that we all have to work on, being aware of those thoughts.
Right. Exactly, brother. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the things that I've learned in the past few years have really uh, have really made me realize how in control we are, and how we all have these spirit guides, higher self, that is trying to push us uh, in the right direction. But again, the ego gets in the way, and we will have to talk about the ego and the mind versus living through the heart, which really makes all the difference in the world. When you filter your thoughts through your heart, through the heart chakra, you get a whole different outcome in all that you do. And again, by us talking about it, it's really, we can save. My idea of doing these things are to help people get there faster, with more clarity versus having to take the long way around. I think that's the whole purpose of channeling in general, is to, have people listen to these truths, and we're being bombarded by them if we're led to do so. There's people that are not into the channeling, and there's a lot of people that are. So, and they both serve a purpose. So we can't look at it. We cannot judge. That's the first thing that you got to give up, is judgment either way. And it's hard to do, but that's really the way to go. Is to have that non-judgment.
I agree. Judgment is everything. Once you judge something, you place it outside of the ability for yourself to place it in a part of the belief system that you're able to manifest. If,
Right.
if you're judging it, you automatically put it into a negative connotation and no longer able to connect to it. And that's the thing. A lot of people saying, why would I want to connect to these negative things? Why would I want them in my existence? Well, if you've heard what we were just talking about, it
Yes.
always serves its purpose. It does have a purpose in
Yes.
all of our existence. And when we drop that vibration down enough to equally match that so that we can experience and that we can go through it, it's for a reason. Now, there's a lot of people out here now who have been able to kind of learn their whole situation. They've been able to learn how to go through with a higher vibration overall and in general. And that's great. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. If you're able to do that, that's very great. But there's always times of things that are going to test us, and going to those tests is the true call. And
Yes.
when I first started learning this stuff, I was like, man, I've got the world beat now. I'll never have a problem again. I know how to deal with it. No, that doesn't happen like that. We always have adversities, because adversities, that kind of test that you go through, is actually the greatest thing that we can use for growth
Yes.
overall.
Yes. Yes. Exactly, brother. that's why. That's why it's so important to filter this information, and the resonance that it gives you is really incredible. I mean, it really, the more and more you envelop these type of thoughts in your mind, pretty soon they start sinking in little by little. And it takes time. It's a process. This whole thing is a process. But, you have to start sometime. And we don't even realize how we change ourselves changes the rest of the collective. I mean, the person that you treat nice at the corner because you don't judge them anymore, the things that you used to judge that you don't judge anymore, it changes. That's what manifestation is. It actually does change your reality right in front of you, and it is instantly, because when you drop the judgment, you just let go of that type of reality. And what do? You shift to another reality where nothing bothering you. Imagine if you drop all this negativity that you've been carrying your whole life, the judgment, the the looking if things are good or bad. Uh, it's a process that you just have to learn to accept, because that's really the truth of all things.
Absolutely, brother. Is there any part of your life, whether it be recent or past, where you're actually kind of able to see step by step how you were able to manifest anything, either even if it's not an instant, even if it's over time? Can you see how changing? I mean, anything that you might be comfortable sharing, any kind of idea or different mindset or different thing that you practiced that showed in your life, and you were able to actually experience it firsthand by being able to see how it changes and how that change occurred.
Um, well, yeah, it happens in in small ways, of course, but there's many instances where you're you're happy, and you're doing something that you love, and just wonderful things happen. I mean, uh, you know, and when I say that, I'm saying that using the perspective of doing it the alternative way, whereas if you're upset and you go out and you get short with people, or you get upset, or you're just down in your vibration, uh, things just move slower. They there's no synchronicity. Um, the only thing you can do is by remembering those negative times in one's life and remembering the good times in one's life, look at the things that were happening around you at the time. And the power that we talk about is having the power to know that you actually created that reality. So
Absolutely, brother. And for me, I understand exactly what you meant. And a lot of people will argue with you about that. They'll say, well, this is only good because you're in a good mood, you're happy. This is only bad because you're bad. But that's not true. Let's take an example. We just got done doing the session that we did last night, 9 p.m. Eastern times when we started. We got done about 10:30. It was wonderful. I hadn't even heard the session and I was still glowing. I'd had a great day. I knew that me and George were going to start this show back up. I knew that we were going to start the open forums again and start all the projects that we've been working on. And boom, it just blew up with great excitedness, happiness. That's what helped manifest the greatest connection that I've had to Treb in a long time. That's how that session came out beautifully. And after that, I go to bed with happiness in my heart, a great dream state. Came back up, I woke up with great excitement still. I went out, I checked my email. There was a wonderful news about a project that I'm trying to start to get on that next Tuning In American Spirit Channeler movie. And I found a really great message in my email about that, moving closer to my target on that. I got another couple emails, great news with people just telling me how well everything in their life's going because of the work that we are all doing here. And then I go through, I have a little bit, not of a disconnection horribly, but my attitude has changed. Certain things come up. We're in situations where we're pressed for time. We're in situations where we now have to watch children, and it wasn't expected, so it became kind of um, a real big ruckus, and everything kind of just fell apart slowly. And it wasn't a bad turn, it was a slight distraction from my highest excitement. It was a distraction away from focusing my energy and thought into that excitement. And it got pulled away. And as soon as that started happening, I got a couple not so great messages in the email. I started having other situations manifest that were bad. At the shopping
yeah,
store, things went bad. Lots of different things. But as soon as I was able to clear myself out and refocus, the minute I did, I started getting great messages again. People were excited again. I got a couple more good emails from other people explaining some other good news and different aspects of things I'm doing other places. So I mean, literally, I am creating this as I go, and people cannot convince me of my own reality. I see how my focus on that love of things that I have, things that I'm so super excited about, are making my reality day by day. It's making the physical things around me act in a way that my mind is connected to. And this is how I see literally my manifestations playing out moment by moment, not
right.
just day by day.
And it is instant, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely instant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I could state many things like that happen, but I'm glad you brought that up because what it does. I mean, what we're talking about for our listeners is that your state of being will let you know if you're out of alignment or not. I mean, we can get deep and talk about the ethereal bodies of our human body and how when they are out of alignment is when we start feeling these different a positive the polarity in our existence here. But when you start to pay attention to these things and like you said, brother, where you actually see the difference from one moment to the next, that's when you know that you're shifting faster, and you're shifting to a different reality. And that's really what it's all about. It's learning those little differences in the now moment, and that's what gets you in control of actually controlling the outcome of it. And when you get to that point, and you start really understanding how everything it is, it's so exciting that even raises your vibration, because you start seeing the differences in your day-to-day life, and your minute-to-minute life. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So that's great. That was a great story.
Well, thank you. And you know, when you just said that too, it made me think about this. It makes me think about in my early days of trying to wrap my head around this information, I had a different train of thought. I would say day to day is rough. We do, most of us are just trying to catch a moment of happiness in the day. So when things start getting bad, I'll distract myself. So this is my mindset to how to fix everything. I can distract myself with something I like. I can listen to music. I can watch a movie. I could play a video game. I could go on the computer. I can do things that I like, and this will bring it up. But it's not really the way it goes. The way that really is working for me, that I've understood now, more so in the last 6 months than ever, is that's not the true way to bring your happiness. The true way to bring your happiness is to live the whole day in excitement, and when you get distracted, that's a bad thing. You're actually getting distracted by things that aren't full focuses, and that's when you go bad. It's not a distraction to be happy, it's to act in happiness and live happiness, and distractions are only things that pull you away from that. And that was my different mindset. And now I see how living out that daily life, just trying to distract myself with happiness, wasn't the key. Now I don't get distracted from being happy, and that's the main key of difference in my life from that point in my life till now.
Right, and that's a very good point, brother. Um, because actually, what's going on there is the the distractions that are going on. We can't forget that we're living on Earth here, which has polarity. Okay, now what's changed is our consciousness and how it's moving to a point where we can actually see the difference and start understanding these differences within us. And and because we are shifting and are ascending up further to a higher vibration, these differences are basically the ego, you know, fighting with us. I mean, it's our mind or our heart, you know, our ego or our heart. And again, we can't beat ourselves up about it. It's what is in our consciousness, but we have to start talking about these things, and we have to start understanding them on a small scale, little by little, so people will start looking at it and start thinking about these things, so they don't just feel like they're disconnected from source. Because if you're disconnected from source, the higher self will just push you through these different avenues, some good, some bad, but eventually all will get to the point where they need to be. But with this knowledge, you can just get there faster.
Absolutely right, brother. I agree with you 100%. And when you said your higher self pushes you, it does this in a lot of ways. And you'll know when it pushes you because it feels an awful lot like adversity. This
Yeah,
is the pushes that you need. Hey, you're bummed out all the time. I am going to force this situation on you so you can swim or drown. You're going to have to take it to the extreme, especially now with the energies and the way they are, the manner of the situations that we are in. If we are attracting negative situations and mindsets to ourselves, it's going to give us a lot more. It's going to say, do you really prefer this? Do
yeah,
you really want this, or do you want another way? And that's where the choice is being made. And something too about the ego, you have a very great understanding and a very good grip on what the ego is, brother. So if you can explain to people what exactly the ego is, and kind of go into in a short way of, I know you could literally talk a whole hour just on the ego, but give them the good uh, 101 version of it, please.
Well, the ego is basically what our consciousness used to be. Again, for thousands of years, the ego was there to. It's more of a primitive survival way of thinking to make us afraid, to keep us alive. So, I mean, it serves a purpose. It's not a bad thing. It's just with this ascension and these energies that are coming to Earth, um, by living in the ego mind, you're actually fighting with with your soul, basically, because it's pushing you into letting go of the ego. We don't have to be afraid. Fear. If we look at the world and we see all the fearful things going on about it, what does that do? It lowers your vibration. You're thinking, oh my God, what's happening? What's this or that? You have to, again, step back, get that third party perspective of yourself and look at it. I mean, it's there for a reason. All of these things that are perceived negativity are there for a purpose. And what is that purpose? It's to show us, hey, do we like this? Do we like this? What's going on with humanity? Look at these things that are going on. You can't look at somebody that did something bad and can't think of that person that is he is not disconnected from source. He is he is fulfilling his process here on Earth. There's reasons for everything that happens. Like we said, there's no mistakes. But we have to start understanding about all this, and eventually all this negativity will go away. But getting back to the ego, the ego is the old 3D paradigm, and and what we have to do now, when we start living through our heart, we start understanding, uh, kind of get a bigger picture on the nature of reality, and understand it for what it is. Like I said, it's a program that's running. It's always been running, and I think that's what the idea of all of this information is, to let go of the old way of thinking and start expanding our consciousness into more of a heartfelt, loving type of thoughts, which will create your reality to be a much more positive outcome versus a negative one.
Absolutely, brother. And it's amazing too. As we talk, I finally have this realization of an aspect of the ego as we go through. Like you were saying, brother, when we first started out as humans, and it wasn't really when we started out. There was several things that happened to us that made us disconnect from being great and connected as we were, like back in the Atlantis times. And then that was actually where most scientists think of as a starting point of humans after that point. So let's just go back there. Let's say that it's caveman time. This point was that point that humans needed survival. They came from a very low energy. It's the same, it's akin to a chakra, root chakra base. It's purely survival.
Yes.
It's purely instinct. It's purely semi-animalistic at the best. And I don't like to compare us to animals because animals are a lot more advanced in a lot of ways. But I mean, it was an instinctual survival mechanism, and that's where the ego was born. That's where it started. And we've carried that through, even to the times where we think are more civilized, into the thousands, and Rome coming up, and aspects of Europe coming up, and India having more and more culture there too. I mean, all of these ancient times started coming up, and we moved into the higher chakras. We moved into the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakra, and both of these added more aspects to humanity. And this is why the time span of living has grown in that time. We only had to survive a small time because there was less to experience in that root chakra. And then as we came to the sacral, the sexual, the feminine, masculine energies, the fight for who we are sexually came in. And then after that, just like the solar plexus chakra, we ended up coming up with identities of time and trying to stretch ourselves back and looking forward instead of backwards, and being able to mess with that kind of aspects and not being able to forgive ourselves. But now is this age where we are finally moving into the heart. And this is what's so important. The ego does not belong in the heart. And this is why it must be separated from who we are. This is why any human who wants to move, and when I say move into the heart, don't get me wrong. A lot of people say all this hippie stuff, all this love and light stuff has no business in channeling. I like to live my life without connecting, and that's fine. I mean, if that's the way you feel, do that. That's great. Being the best person you can be in the time that you're being is what makes you who you are. So do what you need to do. But moving into the heart can even be about loving yourself that strongly. And this is the realization I just had. It's this is the moving into this heart chakra. This is what fourth density is. If you go every density and you look, it aligns perfectly with the seven we have and the meanings for all of them. And
Oh
right
yeah.
now we're moving into this heart, and this is where we need to live from. All those things that we get excited about and love about, and everything that we think is just so great connected to our heart, this is time to act upon them. This is time for us to stop the petty first, second, and third chakra energies and embrace this heart chakra energy that we're moving into. Embrace this 4D reality.
Right, brother. Yeah. I mean, if we break it down into simple terms, I mean, what is negativity? It's disconnection. It's not loving yourself. Uh, when when years go by and generations go by, they'll liken it to the fact that really disconnection is not loving oneself. So when we begin to love ourselves first, it's going to just change the universe. I mean, it changes all of our past lives concurrently. We can't forget about the past lives that are currently going on. I mean, that gets into linear time, and time doesn't really exist, but we have so many energies that are pulling from our current energy with all these past lives going on, and those past lives all had ego really at the forefront of their consciousness. So what
Sure.
we're what we're moving into is the realization of this, and really cutting those ties of the past and moving so we can raise our vibration and move to a higher consciousness.
Well, and that's really why we're here, brother. That's why we want to connect out to everyone out there who's listening. We want to make sure that the collective, if choosing to, if they choose to,
Yeah,
is
it's a
able to
choice.
connect to something like this, to be able to do it. Because I, for one, know that the collective, if we choose to connect to the collective, which most of us do because we love the people around us, we love the environmental things, we love all the aspects of what collective is. We love humanity as a whole, so we are part of that collective. It can limit you when the collective is really low and you're trying to embrace higher thoughts. And sometimes, and that's something I'm on the fence about too. Treb talks a lot about if you connect to that collective, it can kind of anchor you to it to a degree, but that's the balance that we go through every day. We have to connect to the collective to experience. And I guess one more aspect too, connecting to that idea is going to be one where we talk about the whole idea of the collective consciousness and the way it adds to relationships and the way we see everyone. The relationships that we're having every day is a reflection of ourselves, and this is what we're not seeing. The collective is the collective, but it's also only what we're projecting outward. We're manifesting our physical reality purely from the inside out. And all these things that we see it to be external, all the negative people, a lot of people focus on Illuminati and bombs and weathers and killings and all these things, but really that's only a reflection on the inside that we have. And I don't mean to disconnect from it. I'm not saying don't look at it as if it's not happening and don't be passionate about it. I'm not telling you not to send love to the people there because you don't see them as really them, you just see them as a part of you. What I mean is being compassionate and connecting to those people, and seeing yourself as worthy loving. This is all something that ties in real
Yeah,
greatly. I think
yeah,
the idea is to center in on that loving yourself, because this truly is loving everyone else too. And when you find yourself being able to accept these aspects of you that you truly believe are faulted, then you really are able to embrace connecting out to other people. Then that's how the collective brings it back in. Everyone who sees themselves as worthy is finally able to see the rest of the collective for what they truly are, and it's an extension of themselves.
That's right, brother. Very good point. You remember that session that we did with Treb, where he was talking about your everybody's personal vibration and how that affects the grid, and which of course affects the collective. And the percentages of the people touched were astronomical numbers. And it just goes to show you, but just by if people would just change themselves individually, the outside reality would change. I mean, without getting too deep, we're creators. We're an aspect of God or the source. So in creating this, we're also creating the people around us, and we can't forget about the infinite number of parallel realities. So what does that say? That shows us that we're creating our own little world. Everybody is creating their own little world that they live in, the people that they interact with. It's, think of them as backdrop people. They're just there appearing depending on your vibration. Is your Who are you going to meet in the store? Are they going to be positive? Is it going to be a happy experience, or is it going to be a negative experience? We
Absolutely.
really we really have to understand that we are creators, but we don't realize it. We don't give ourselves enough credit and understand that our vibration at every given moment is creating the people that are being drawn to you. And those are the things that we need to talk about more, to have them to have people really understand the power that they really have. I mean, you're a spirit, you're part of source. You know what that is? I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal.
Oh, absolutely, brother. I agree with you 100%. And I wanted to reference the session that we had where it talked about Treb 2. The name of that one, for anyone interested, is Treb Channeling. And the name of the actual session is called Changing the Collective, featuring Sublift and Extra Celestial. And this was basically a personal session that Georgia did with Treb, and he wished to share this specific part out of it because it was so profound. And I ended up getting a little artistic with it and putting it to some background music, but it worked out really great, and it's so true. All that energy you're putting out is coming back in. And it's interesting you brought up backdrop people too, brother, because that's something that I think we need to kind of dedicate a whole show to. I had a friend of mine too who was really looking forward to trying to connect to us during a show and maybe having him talk to us about that, because that's one thing that he's really passionate about and has a lot of information about. And maybe that's something we can do in the future too, is maybe get a chat with him going on about that. But I think you're absolutely right, brother, with the whole aspect of changing this collective through our own vibration. I mean, acting upon what you love, all of these things are so important. So if you have to sum up the most important parts of today, I would say that's exactly what it is, to change the collective through your own personal actions that you are doing on the things that you truly love, and to seeing all aspects of yourself to be great, lack of judgment, disconnection from disconnection.
Yeah.
And I think all these parts are good. And if you have to sum up today, what do you think, brother? What's the biggest points we need to bring away from this?
Well, I think the main point is that the negativity, the perceived negativity that's going on in the world is just a direct reflection of where the collective is at. So so what and if you understand that concept, then you also understand how changing yourself and loving yourself puts that into the grid of other people loving themselves. So it's kind of a domino effect on how that works. So these all of these upheavals in society that are going on is really because of this ascension, is bringing everything up to the surface and showing us, hey, do we really want to live this way? Is this the kind of society we want to live in? I mean, there's that's a synchronicity in itself, that all of these things are happening right now. It's not a coincidence. It's there to show us. And if if the earth, if Gaia with her consciousness has to do this, it's going to be allowed. It's serving a purpose to show people, you know, we don't want to live this way. So it's that's what I got out of it. I mean, I just kind of every every session with Treb is just more wisdom that we need to start incorporating into our lives and our thoughts.
Absolutely, brother. I think you wrapped it up perfectly. For me, if we're looking at the detailed aspects of kind of closing this whole thing up today, the whole chat that we're having and the whole show, it's basically to be able to look at the things in your life with a better perspective, to be able to change the way you judge things and try not to judge it. Come from a neutral mindset. A really good friend of mine, a guy who did a session, his name's Matthew, with Trev, and this session hasn't been released yet, but it will. Something profound that I heard him say is whether you're too negative or too positive, either way you look at it, you're looking at things from a tilted view. If you're standing on the negative, you're tilting your body to the left. If you're standing too positive, you're tipping yourself to the right. To see things for what they truly are, neutral, you're standing on your own two legs. You're providing the most strength in you that you can. And what I mean by positivity is being able to see all things is really good. If something doesn't resonate with you, you can't look at it and say, "Oh, well, that's just great." But at least when you're looking at it neutrally, you can look at it at a perspective that's fair. You can say, "I see its purpose. It doesn't resonate with me," and you don't have to kid yourself that way. A lot of people come off too positive, and for me, I like the positive tip. I like the positive side of myself. I tend to lean more that way myself, but I see what he's meaning by that. I see exactly what he's saying. To be able to perceive everything equally from a total neutral, that takes the most strength.
Yeah,
That's where we have to provide our aspects and our perceptions from. I think that, along with all of the littler ideas that we just got done talking about and that we've been talking about the whole idea or the whole time, I think those are all good. And the very last thing that I kind of want to point back to also is the way that adversity helps us grow. I think that's a really big point. To
for
re-listen
sure.
to those parts and to see that when we judge those things and perceive them as negative, we're not doing ourselves a favor. It's actually a great thing to be able to grow, and we can't grow standing in one place and not acting upon the things we love. Action is a very, very big part of manifesting. It's a very big part of living. And I thank you so much, True Brother, for all your insights and input on this show today. I think that we've covered a lot of great ground, and I think that we're going to be covering a lot more ground soon. What are your kind of ideas for the show as we move into the future here? Because I know we still have a lot of time ahead of us and a lot of sessions that we're going to be doing, and a lot of great things will come of this. But what are some of the ideas of things you want to look at for future sessions?
Well, I think as we move forward and with the sessions with Trev, I think we should maybe get through our listeners maybe some ideas that they have. We'll kind of take those ideas and we'll kind of filter them through a subject that we can talk to Treb about. In other words, if somebody where we used to have the forum questions before, maybe we'll take those forum questions and kind of put them in a group and analyze them, and then talk to Treb about those things, and then we can have on the show we can have a session just talking about the questions, the thoughts that our people are having. Um, we're all one, so what affects me is has to affect the other person. So whatever I'm feeling, I know that other people are feeling this, and the same thing with you, brother.
Uh,
Uh,
yes?
we're in the collective together, so our experiences aren't that much different. It's basically how we perceive them. So I just I look forward to doing these more often and really if even a sentence or a word touches one person, uh, we're doing our job and just expressing this, and it helps us out. I know it helps you out. It helps me out, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, brother, and I thank you for that too, and for us too. That's another thing me and George have been talking about. This open forum sessions are really great, but we do kind of want to reformulate these a little bit because so many people have contacted us in the last couple months, and we haven't done one for a couple months. Our questions are piled through the roof, and a lot of people kind of aren't understanding the whole concept behind the open forum. The open forum isn't so much an opportunity for people to ask personal questions about their own life. For one, Treb can't do that because he has to have your permission in the moment and connect to
Right.
your energy to answer that. Secondly, if it's not serving a purpose for the collective consciousness, it doesn't feel right. So, I mean, if there's questions of curiosity, that's fine. Ask those. If there's anything you want to know, ask from your heart. And I guarantee that if it's helpful to people, whether it be of knowledge or whether it be of ideas that help raise the collective that's what we're shooting for. And the collective consciousness raising is a big part of both of me and George's heart. And we're doing this from our excitement and heart, and we're co-creating with all of you who are doing the same thing. So
Right.
all of your feedback, all of your questions, all of those things are real important. And remember, again, sending those to trebchanneling.com and going to the Q&A section of the open forum is going to be way easier for us to get your questions. This is going to be a guaranteed way. And we'll also leave the link to the Facebook page. You can come and like it. You can comment on it. And if you want to send a question there, that's the only way you can. That's fine too. We will try to collect as many off there as we can. But it's been overwhelming for both of us. Me and George have been doing this now for a while, and Treb's gaining more attention throughout a lot of different places, and it's getting very, very uh, big. A lot of more people are starting to connect to these messages. So just, keep it collective based. If you want a personal session, go to Treb Channeling and go to request a session and apply for a free session, donations, whatever kind you want. That's the way to kind of do your own sessions with your own personal, and that's how you'll be able to get Treb to answer that. If there's not enough time for a whole session for yourself, well, get a friend who wants to go half and half with you and do a group session, and Treb can do those too for free for people. It's just harder for him, for me, and for George to facilitate those personal idea questions. It just really doesn't work. Treb won't allow it. He doesn't do it. He doesn't connect to someone unless they give their permission in the moment. So just remember that, guys. Remember that we're going to be pushing this show as far as we can, getting as many out as we can. We're also going to open up the open forum and also just freestyle sessions with Treb. Anything George wants to talk with about Treb, anything that you guys send in suggestions on this YouTube page, go ahead and comment under the video. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to hear, anything you think will help the collective, please let us know. We're open to all your guys' communication.
That's great, brother. Yeah, I to reiterate that. Yeah, that's really the way. I think the most gain for all is to do it this way because, um, like I said, what we're feeling, what everybody else is feeling too, and I understand. There's a lot of, I don't care if they're just a regular layperson or a light worker, or we all have questions, we all have doubts, but we're moving in the right direction. And I think, again, it begins with loving yourself, you know, love yourself enough to understand and to lift the weight of all of this negativity. Really understand that you're a spirit. Okay, there's just a small aspect of your of a much greater uh, aspect of yourself. I mean, it's so remarkable once you make that realization that it'll start making you happy. And so, my purpose here, and I'm sure yours is too, brother, is just to make people understand really how they just can lighten their load and lighten up in life, which will expand into the collective. So I think this is a much better approach, brother, and and I look forward to very much to do these.
Oh, and so do I, brother. And I think that's all we're gonna do for the night. We're gonna call it a quits right now. I've enjoyed my time with you, brother, and I've enjoyed my time with all of you guys really
Thank you,
well.
brother.
Yeah, and we're gonna sign out now with the Rob and George Enlightenment Evolution Show. This is Rob,
And this is George.
and we wish you a great night. Goodbye, guys.
Love you.